Celebrate Atop the Fourth Wall's 9th anniversary and your love for superheroes who spell words wrong so a company can trademark a name by pre-ordering the Because Poor Literacy is Cool shirt now on sharkrobot.com. Link in the description. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. You know what? Assuming this episode actually comes out on time, Halloween is a day away, and we should end the Nightmare on Elm Street reviews on a bigger note than just some one-shot half devoted to Leatherface. 2003 saw the release of Freddy vs. Jason, a crossover film between A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th, pitting two iconic slasher movie monsters against one another. I frickin' love Freddy vs. Jason. Hell, it was the first of either franchise that I saw in the theaters, and as a fan of both series, it delivered exactly what I wanted out of the crossover. It is by no means a perfect movie, but some of the criticisms lobbied against it that I've heard of are silly. For instance, well, who cares about the stock slasher movie characters? I do, because if I just wanted to see Freddy and Jason stab each other, I could just watch a fan film on YouTube. I want a story driving things, and for a slasher movie, the story ain't terrible. Other criticisms are not so silly, like Jason's sudden aversion to water, but one could probably argue that it's not the water itself that was an issue, but maybe being in a nightmare, seeing a vision of his mom again, the water flow just all of a sudden was a trigger for the traumatic moment of his drowning, and that's what Freddy took advantage of. And don't pretend Jason is immune to that kind of thing. Dude got tricked once by someone wearing his mom's sweater. Jason Voorhees has issues, is what I'm saying. You would too if you kept getting stabbed in the head and then killed and resurrected multiple times. Dude got blown the hell up once. Give him a break for a moment of weakness. Want to know what does bug me about the movie? The introduction, where Freddy is giving some backstory for anyone new to this stuff. The annoying thing is, I love this intro. Robert Englund is a fantastic actor and sells this narration perfectly. It's very well edited as a recap of Freddy, and the clips have been desaturated to the point where there's almost a black and white quality to them. The problem is that it gives away the plot of the movie, so there's no surprises with what's going on, and we're waiting for the main characters to catch up to what the audience already knows. Speaking of, given the material today, we need to get some introductions out of the way for those who may not be familiar with the title characters. Freddy you all know from the last 3 years worth of reviews. Jason Voorhees was originally a handicapped child at Camp Crystal Lake who drowned because the camp counselors were too busy having sex to keep an eye on him. His mother, driven insane by the loss, murdered the counselors. Unbeknownst to her, Jason seemingly survived the drowning and lived in the woods, eventually witnessing his mom being killed by the last survivor of another massacre she perpetrated. Each time new people came to the lake to try to rebuild the summer camp at the place, he'd murder them. And that's why the series is called Friday the 13th. As I said earlier though, he's been killed and resurrected a few times. By lightning, by telekinesis, and most relevant to today's outing, during the revelation in the 9th movie that Jason actually has a demon inside of him that can possess other bodies if he's not properly defeated. At the end of that movie, Jason is dragged into the earth, or presumably hell, with his hockey mask left behind, to be pulled down by Freddy Krueger's glove to foreshadow the planned Freddy vs. Jason film. Yeah, the film had been in development hell for over a decade before it finally got made. I read some of the drafts for the movie while it was stuck there, and holy crap guys, even if you don't like Freddy vs. Jason, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. Some had barely any fighting between the two at all, in a film called Freddy vs. Jason. Quite a bit of retconning was afoot, or trying to go for a real-world, well, these are just movie characters, metatextual thing like Wes Craven's New Nightmare did, but definitely not as smart. Stuff where the two characters were just servants of a new villain called, believe it or not, Thanos, and yet another where Jason is basically a good guy in the end, despite still being a serial killer who is captured and put on trial in the story. If you don't enjoy the movie, fine, I can't make you like something. I'm just saying, when it comes to Freddy vs. Jason, we dodged so many bullets, and I'll defend it to the day I die. And then afterwards when I become a deadite. Which brings us to the third character in this battle. Ashley, or Ash Williams, is the hero of the Evil Dead movies, save for the 2013 remake, and TV show. Said movies are about an evil book, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, which has the power to summon demons, spirits, and all sorts of weird crap like that. Ash was just an average guy who went to a cabin in the woods for the weekend with his girlfriend, and other friends in the first movie, when they discovered the Necronomicon and accidentally unleashed its evil. The first was a straight-up horror film, but the preceding films moved into horror comedy, with Ash being a reluctant, catchphrase-delivering hero who had his hand cut off and replaced it with a chainsaw. He kicked ass, took names, and delivered a shotgun blast straight into the face of evil, and then got knocked into some walls because slapstick. While one proposed ending for Freddy vs. Jason would have had the two meet Pinhead from the Hellraiser franchise, and just you wait, I've got some plans for Hellraiser soon enough. What had more traction was a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason that included Ash in the mix. Most parties involved were pretty open to the idea, and it got inches away from being done, but apparently creative differences made it break down, particularly when it came to the ending, although I'm reading up on this years after the fact, so who knows what really happened. The point is that it got to the point where a script was made, and while the project officially fell apart, well, it was a perfectly good script, so why let it go to waste? And thus came the Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comic. I'll talk a bit more about Freddy vs. Jason in the actual review, because, yeah, this intro has gone on for far too long, but let's dig into Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
We're going through 6 comics today, and that introduction was already way too long, so we'll skip the covers. We open in Crystal Lake 5 years after the events of Freddy vs. Jason. This here place is Crystal Lake. The local yokels have taken to calling it Forest Green, as if changing its name will erase the things that happened here. Well, at least it's better than the first name they proposed, Never Stabbington. Take it from me, there's nothing you can do can take away the nightmares once you've lived through them. Nevertheless, they did their best to hide it with new roads, lakeside condos, and even a new warehouse-sized super mega ultra S-Mart. But getting a good deal on your housewares won't cover up the blood that's been spilt here. Well, no, but I think the laundry detergent shelf might help. See, Crystal Lake is the birthplace of an evil so foul, it even gives the Deadites a run for their money. And right down the street, the worst nightmare imaginable was dreamed up. Young Sheldon. No, of course, he's referring to Freddy and Jason, showing a little montage of shots from the film. We then cut to Laurie and Will, the survivors of Freddy vs. Jason. From what I read, they actually were on board with coming back for this cameo at the beginning, which definitely would have been cool. Not every horror series, especially slashers, have actors who are willing to reprise their characters. Apparently, Laurie has pushed Will into coming back here because she needs to know for certain that Freddy and Jason are gone for good after their seeming deaths at the end of the movie. Laurie, this takes place in 2008. You could have just Googled whether or not people had seen them and not done something as dumb as this. I mean, really? 5 years you decided to wait before trying this? They soon arrive at the campgrounds in the middle of a snowstorm and have a quick look around. And apparently Jason has been practicing his teleporting, since Laurie turns her back for all of a second when noticing some blood, but when she turns around again, Jason has already taken Will, dragged him back to a cabin, and disemboweled him, hanging his corpse up. And here we can see the traditional Jason sound effect. Although since we see it several times here, it makes me wonder if this is actually something Laurie can hear too. What's making that noise? Is that Jason doing it? Does he shake his hips around to warn off predators like a rattlesnake? Anyway, Laurie is briefly in shock because of this, particularly because they survived Freddy and Jason before, but recovers quickly enough when Jason returns to attack her. Despite being injured, she manages to evade him and swears vengeance. Ash's narration talks about how, after all these sorts of things happen to a person, seeing everyone around you murdered horribly, but you were spared, one can assume that you were chosen, that you're special, that you are the one who will be the hero and save the day. And we see her pick up a buzzsaw and slice at Jason with it, even shoving him out a window. She goes out to double tap him, but unfortunately she takes a machete to the head. But in the end, you can't outrun fate. Plain and simple. No, but you can stay out of fate's way by not going back to the place where your greatest enemies were 5 years later. In my opinion, killing Laurie and Will was a mistake. They got a happy ending, and there was no reason to kill them off like they did, other than making it clear this was a sequel. They were likable characters, and it not only feels like it undermines their story by making them the opening kills, but also making their deaths so pointless to everything else in the comic. I'm not against killing off previous protagonists, just that it should help drive the plot in some way, or have them contribute enough to the plot that it doesn't feel like a cheat with them appearing. Anyway, back over to S-Mart, where we meet our kill fodder, supporting characters, kill fodder. It's a group of teenagers who work there telling crude jokes, like this guy in a Santa suit to a girl named Caroline. Hey Caroline, wanna suck on my candy cane? She's checking out your North Pole, huh, Raoul? If this comic had any sense of justice, those two would end up impaled on that thing. Instead, another guy named Davey steps up to tell them to knock it off, but she says she can handle it, telling them that's fine, but she plays rough, snapping the candy cane in half. However, the store manager, being a douchebag, does not care about the harassment she just went through, but on the fact that she broke a candy cane toy. That $1.95 is coming out of your paycheck. We work on nickels and dimes here in the retail business. Sell a widget, make a nickel. Sell two and make a dime. Your little pubescent skit just cost S-Mart 39 of the nickels we worked so hard to earn. Say hello to the only man who has never heard of store write-offs due to damage or theft. Say, how many nickels will it cost for you to get your head out of corporate's butt? He berates them for being teenagers who don't take their minimum wage jobs seriously, who are probably seasonal hires anyway, and if you're that upset, fire them, and says they're calling in a seasoned S-Mart employee to show them a thing or two about a thing or two. The two jackass teens pin a sign to his back that says, "I lick jingle balls." Dude, that is so classic! Ha 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 ha. If children are our future, then the future is dumb. After Jason drags the bodies back to his shack, we see that he's placed Freddy's decapitated head next to his mom's. So, does that mean he's being reverent and respectful to Freddy? In any case, he must have dozed off or something, since the heads disappear and a zoom in on his eye brings us a dream back to Camp Crystal Lake in the 50s. Jason watches as the kids torment him, the camp counselor screwing, and finally to one crooked cabin where we see Freddy banging Pamela Voorhees. And that's old lady Pamela Voorhees, yet because comic artists are so set in their ways, she's drawn with an old lady face and porn star body. Smooth. Freddy speaks to Jason through his mother, the same trick he used in Freddy vs. Jason, and tells him if he wants to get Freddy out of his head and not be picked on anymore, he needs to go to the old Voorhees house and find a special book, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. What's funny is that, much like the Freddy glove at the end of the 9th Friday movie, this is yet another reference to it, because a prop in that film is the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead movies. It's just a neat little nod and wink, but it helps form the basis of this entire crossover. So remember, kids, always include random objects in the background of your work that might pay off in the future. And from there, we finally catch up with Ash, who of course has been narrating all this and is the one the S-Mart manager was talking about. The name's Ash, housewares, domestic engineer, Detroit S-Mart, and I am the chosen one. It wasn't always this way. I had a real life once, a long time ago in an S-Mart far, far away. But all that is ancient history, just like the Romans and their pyramids. Yes, let us never forget that enemy I have spoken of so often, Ancient Rome! We move on to issue 2 as Ash arrives at the S-Mart and runs into Manager Von Snooty Pants. Apparently, they don't value punctuality at the Detroit store, but we here at Super Ultra Mega S-Mart are held to a higher standard. We've already wasted 7 minutes out here on the consumer tarmac. Let's get inside and straighten out the housewares department. Apparently, he took that broken candy cane and shoved it right up his ass. Later, some girls in the parking lot are murdered by Jason, and the act is observed by an old lady, who screams and gets Ash's attention. Somehow, the cops arrive immediately afterwards and think Ash is responsible for the blood pile, but of course the manager confirms he was inside when it all happened. When the teenage employees ask what the hell happened out there, Ash goes off on a rant about the Deadites and how these damn kids today don't even know what it's like to kill ancient Kandarian demons. Yeah, something I left out of my introduction to Ash is that while he's a badass, he's also kind of a dumbass. Depending on how you look at it, he's a dumb badass or a bad dumbass. He admits that the real reason he came to Crystal Lake is to get the Necronomicon and finish off the Deadites once and for all, though it's never mentioned how he knew it was here. The kids, of course, laugh it off, though later Caroline asks about it in the break room, including about how he has a metal hand. More Deadite tricks. They got into my hand and it went bad. I had to lop it off at the wrist. In retrospect, antibiotics probably would have worked better. Caroline mentions Jason, and Ash remembers the old lady in the parking lot was rambling about him. She explains the history of Jason and all that. Over the past 30 years, there have been swaths of killings attributed to him, or copycats. There even was a killer in Manhattan they thought might have been Jason. But we know that one isn't true because that one was actually in Canada. The other teens try to mess with Ash with some ketchup and a hockey mask, but of course Ash kicks the kid's ass, much to their irritation, assuming he's crazy. It's Raoul! It was a joke, man! Jeez, I come screaming at you with what looks like blood and a weapon, and there you go actually defending yourself! Jason is sent out once again to get the Necronomicon, but finds himself distracted by a group of carolers, whom he proceeds to slaughter. Hey Jason, there are a bunch of really annoying teenagers at a department store who I can't wait to see die. I don't suppose you want to get to them anytime soon, do you? A different group of teens come to the store, with the hot girl of their group tricking Ash into buying her a bunch of supplies for them. They say they're gonna spend the night in the Voorhees house before it's torn down. Oh, yeah, sounds like a great plan. Stay a night in the middle of winter in a dilapidated old house associated with a serial killer without power or heat. And of course, as soon as they get there, the teens start having sex. Oh, yeah, nothing more arousing than the smell of mold and animal feces. And we see that Jason is a bit of a pervert here. Ash arrives at the house, annoyed that the teens who had tricked him earlier are already here, but it turns out Caroline followed him as well, seeing Ash as her ticket out of Crystal Lake. Ash sneaks into the cellar, annoyed about all this. Sure, it's okay. Ash is down here with the spiders and the ornamental skeletal critters, while they're up there having an orgy. Yeah, life's real fair. Stay in school, kids. You too could end up successful like me. Dude, you're gainfully employed. For some people today, that's living the dream. As Jason does his a-killin', Ash finds the Necronomicon, but soon heads upstairs when he hears Jason. The girl who teased him, Bree, soon goes to him. Dead. All dead. He killed them all. And he makes out with her. Yeah, I see. But we're not. Time and place, asshole! Jason returns and Ash gets the first hit off, blasting him with the shotgun and making his escape with Bree back to the car. Issue 3 starts up with Jason throwing his machete right at Ash's face, but Ash is able to catch it with his metal hand. Impressive, but because his car won't start, it gives Jason the time he needs to smash it. Fortunately, Carolyn is close by and slams into Jason, rescuing the two. As they head back to the S-Mart to plan their next move, Freddy berates Jason over his failure, literally picking at Jason's brain to see who did this and sees the S-Mart badge. At the store, the other teenagers are busy getting high in an old VW bus, because of course they are, as Ash and the women arrive. When one of them spots Bree, he starts hitting on her. Back off, Casa Numbnuts. Can't you see the girl's in shock? She just saw her friends get butchered. Something tells me she isn't interested in your pencil prick right now. When that happens, the appropriate thing to do is to kiss her, not hit on her. That's how you help trauma. The guys all head off as our heroes take Bree to the break room and get her some fresh clothes. Ash says they need someone to help them translate the Necronomicon to help reverse Jason, assuming he's a Deadite, but then Jason arrives at the store, ignoring everyone until he literally bumps into someone, and that sets him off. Jason's pet peeve? Rude shoppers. As Jason starts mangling people in the store, Ash suddenly runs off, to Caroline's confusion. Manager Von Jackass comes out. Caroline, get the shoppers out of the store and call the police! That uncouth man is ruining our store displays! Do you know how many nickels it's gonna cost us to replace them? And Jason partially decapitates him with his clipboard. You know, I'd make some comment about how physically impossible that is, but I just can't get out of my head that in the afterlife he's still complaining about the $2 wasted on having to replace his clipboard. Ash returns, now armed with both his shotgun and his chainsaw. Yo, Wayne Dedsky! Hockey fan, huh? You know, they say a slap shot travels over 100 miles an hour, but I find that buckshot goes a hell of a lot faster than that. So what you're saying is we should be playing hockey with buckshot? The fight's pretty damn good, with him getting a few shots off, even cutting Jason with the chainsaw, but of course Jason just sends him through a wall. It's always that bizarre disconnect in terms of strength, isn't it? He's so strong he can use a clipboard to cut through a guy, but not strong enough to flatten Ash's face against a wall. Or maybe that's just the effectiveness of main character shields? In any event, Jason gets away with the book, killing Bree in the process. Good to see they had an important reason to keep her alive. Ash and the teens decide to go to Caroline's place to regroup since her parents are out of town. Jason, meanwhile, puts the Necronomicon in front of Freddy's head, allowing him to use the book to resurrect himself.
I guess they were right about print being dead. Let's see if we can't find some kids who are dying to read, too. This is exactly the right time for an Animorphs revival.
Surprisingly, Freddy's not holding a grudge against Jason and wishes him well as he tries to walk off, but Jason holds him back, demanding he fulfill his end of the bargain. And Freddy's happy to do so. Man, being killed by Jason has been a really therapeutic experience for Freddy. Ash and the teens talk about what happened, wondering why Jason, who normally has a very limited intellect, would want the Necronomicon. The kids figure that someone must be pulling Jason's strings, so if they find out who's controlling him, they can take them both down. They all settle in for the night and plan to go back to the Voorhees house in the morning to retrieve the book. In Ash's dream, he wakes up in the Evil Dead cabin with a restored hand. I'm whole again, like before the cabin in the woods. No one must ever know that Jason secretly cut off my hand with the DVD case for that movie. However, his hand goes bad again and sprouts into a Freddy glove instead, ending issue 3. Ash runs out of the cabin, pissed that he has to go through this crap again.
Ugh, gotta get to the tool shed.
Wait, that line wasn't awkwardly dubbed in? This can't be real! Locating the chainsaw, he cuts his hand off, deriding the Deadites for their lack of imagination, but then realizes this already happened, so how is he experiencing it again? It's called a rerun, Ash. Get used to it. The blood splatter forms into tiny little Freddys.
If the bloody trip down memory lane with you in your right hand got you all weepy-eyed for those quiet special nights, just wait till you see this one!
Oh no, you're gonna make me watch Alien Apocalypse! Freddy reforms and explains that he isn't a Deadite.
Now then, let's get down to the business at hand, shall we? I need the Necronomicon, and you and those meddling pimple poppers are gonna help me get it!
But Freddy, how is he supposed to get it away from Freddy? Wait. Yeah, why is he asking him to help get the Necronomicon when he already has it? Whatever. Ash fights back against Freddy. So let's try a different game. Something like Truth or Die. Now make with the answers, Dead Astaire. How can I learn to dance like you? After some more dueling banter, Ash manages to wake himself up, but realizes that damage he sustained in the dream world carried over into the real one. He wakes up the other kids to protect them, but Dave fails to, getting into a nightmare where he's pummeled to death by dodgeballs. Freddy exits the dream world next to Jason, saying that while that was fun, he needs Jason to run interference on our heroes when they arrive.
Now get out there and do some killing! I've got some heavy reading to do! I'm beginning to understand why women liked Twilight so much. I'm actually really engaged!
Ash and the teens return to S-Mart and stock up on supplies, weapons and explosives mostly, before proceeding to the Voorhees house. They lay some explosives on the porch, figuring they can lure Jason into a trap and bury him under the house. Ash also figures they should be safe from Freddy as long as they don't fall asleep, but just in case Jason is still an issue, he upgrades his chainsaw to a newer model that was at the S-Mart. Although I'm pretty sure he needed to modify the original chainsaw to attach to his stump arm. Did he do that to this one too? Now, this is the most important part. Don't get killed. I have enough blood on my hands to last a lifetime. I don't need a couple of dip kids and another cute girl to die because I couldn't take down the demons quick enough. Also, Caroline, I'm really hoping you're at least 18, because if not, well, that makes this age discrepancy thing between us that was already kind of creepy even worse. The two dumbasses walk around, waiting for Jason to attack and hopefully lure him out, continuing to show how unlikable they are by mentioning, even after someone they know died and all this crap going on, that they want to bang Caroline. Thankfully, that's interrupted by Jason showing up and chasing them back to the cabin. They plant some bait, one of the teens' hats, and go into hiding. But when Jason arrives, he takes one look at the bait, realizes what's going on, and waggles his finger at Caroline T-1000 style. Yeah, as a result of Freddy's use of the Necronomicon, Jason is a bit smarter now. It's one of those moments that I really do wish had ended up on screen. Ash, meanwhile, finds the Necronomicon, but gets stabbed in the shoulder by Freddy. And I mean right through. Freddy puts his whole hand through there. The fact that Ash isn't dying from a wound that large is pretty impressive. Ash is confused how the hell he's seeing Freddy if he's still awake.
Thanks to those Deadite passages, I'll have dominion over the waking and the dream worlds. So just hand it over, and the children of Elm Streets everywhere will suffer night and day like never before.
You say that now, Freddy, but I know what burnout can do to you. You're gonna be so busy, you won't have time to kill like you used to, and it'll stop being fun. Ash says he's gonna stop him, but Freddy just laughs that off, because he already performed the spell 10 minutes ago.
Turns out that comic-loving kid I killed in the 5th movie had a copy of Watchmen on him. It's been a big inspiration.
As spirits swarm around Freddy and out of the Voorhees house, Jason seems to take notice and realize he may have backed the wrong horse since he decides to come back into the house. Freddy pins Ash to the wall with some replicas of his hand from the dream.
Ha ha ha! Now that's what I call a hand job!
Now that's what I call a terrible joke, Fred. Jason comes in, ready to fight Freddy, but with his new powers, Freddy starts summoning up Jason's past victims to drag him down, ending issue 4. There are a few recognizable little fan service nods to past victims from his movies, but Freddy uses one of the disembodied hands to stab Jason through the back with his own machete. And to show off Jason's own badassery, he grabs the machete knife end first and pulls it through his own body to retrieve it. Freddy decides to quit while he's ahead, but this distraction allowed Ash to escape and get the Necronomicon. Freddy's still empowered by the book though, making the forest come alive to attack him.
Miracle Grow worked too well.
Damn you, Krueger! Get out of my head and come up with your own ideas! I mean, come on! How many movies have you had in your franchise? You must have come up with some original ideas! I'm gonna rip that Thriller glove right off your hand and shove it up your pansy hat-wearing ass! I must have missed the part in Thriller where Michael Jackson fought Freddy Krueger. Unfortunately, Freddy takes Ash's advice and starts having crows peck at him. But he manages to bust free and starts swinging his chainsaw around, killing the deadite trees and blasting the crows with his shotgun. He finds the dead bodies of the teens, lamenting how he wasn't there to help them, but fortunately Caroline survived. In a nice bit of imagery, Freddy's face appears in the sky, forming out of the clouds. The red coloring really does contrast nicely with the blues, whites, and grays. The two run inside the house for cover. The book has the power to banish Freddy and Jason to the deadite dimension. I've seen it firsthand. Hell, I've been sucked up and spit out by it so many times I practically have a timeshare in 3 other dimensions. Surprisingly, it's the deadite dimension that has the best rental rates. Inside the book are pages depicting Pamela Voorhees reading from it, suggesting that she originally used it to bring Jason back to life. He has Caroline work on the book, hopefully to find the right pages that'll send them away, and finally tells her to say the magic words. Klaatu Verata Nikto. Not sure how Ash knows that specifically will work in this instance, but whatever. Freddy has arrived and it's time for the artwork to get really bad. Just, dear God, Ash, what's wrong with your face? Those eyes, people! That's gonna replace Mr. Computer in my nightmares! Ash exits the Voorhees house, but reality has shifted so that it's instead 1428 Elm Street, with the jump roping girls outside. Freddy appears inside the house and drags Caroline back in, but it's time for the girls, after so many movies and media, to finally do something, snagging Ash with their jump rope and scratching at him. Ash proceeds to slice them up along with a Freddy snake. Meanwhile, with Freddy and Caroline,
My, sweet cherry pie. I'm actually a huge fan of Warrant. Ultraphobic is a really underrated album.
And the tongue thing. Wouldn't be Freddy without the tongue thing. I can tie a knot in a pumpkin stem with this bad boy. Wait till you see what I can do to you with it. Well, from the looks of things, mostly just feed her ecto-cooler. Jason shows up and attacks once more, Ash following behind him. Freddy goes to town on Jason, Ash telling Caroline to finally use the words. But Jason grabs the Necronomicon before she can finish. Ash blasts off Jason's mask. Damn, you're one ugly mother... Wait, Jason was the Predator this whole time? Not a bad look for Jason in this one, especially with the more skull-like jawline. Ash cuts off Jason's arm to get the book back, but Jason gets inspired by Ash's chainsaw hand, shoving his machete into his stump arm. Ash gets knocked away as reality once again warps, ending issue 5. The house collapses and Ash is unconscious, Freddy chasing after Caroline again to get the book back. Issues 5 and 6 are basically the big climax of the movie, the fight to end all fights between these three figures. Freddy finally gets the book back, but Jason once again emerges to attack. Freddy freezes him.
I was frozen today!
So he can use a passage from the Necronomicon to finally get rid of him once and for all. Fortunately, Ash's car is apparently intact enough for him to ram into Kruger. You again? Don't you know when to stay down? Sorry, Hash Brown. I only go down on one thing, and it sure as ain't the wrinkled ass likes of you. Now, Jason, on the other hand... Oh, you think that hurts? Well, I got some bad news for you, dreamer boy. I'm a 35-year-old clock puncher at a department store. My life has been one horror after another thanks to the Necronomicon and the Deadites. I've had to dismember friends and lovers while they scream and beg for me to stop. All to stop this book from destroying the world. You might think that whatever pain transformed you into the creature you are now was the worst thing you've ever felt. You ain't seen nothing yet. And that, my friends, is one of the many reasons why you treat retail workers with respect. At this point, all I'm doing is recapping the fight. Ash shoots Freddy's groin off, Freddy clones himself to overwhelm Jason, Ash gets tossed around like a ragdoll, it's all good. Freddy finally remembers his whole godlike power thing and decides to just leave and go have fun elsewhere, but Caroline finally reads off the magic words with the book, opening up a portal that sucks Freddy into it. Ooh, better be careful, Fred. I've seen that thing before. You might find a pissed-off planeteer, an internet reviewer, and/or a douchey nitpicker inside of it. Ash and Caroline hang onto a tree as everything is sucked into the portal, including the Necronomicon. Jason is strong enough to resist at first, but Ash's car rams into him and sends him into the frozen lake. We start wrapping things up with Caroline kissing Ash and packing up to leave the place. I came to Crystal Lake by coincidence, or so I thought, but it wasn't a random transfer or a punishment for destroying the original S-Mart location that brought me here. Yeah, you said a few issues ago that you came here specifically to find the Necronomicon. Were you just making that part up? But I didn't realize that the Necronomicon itself was changing reality to bring me here. I think it was actually afraid of what Freddy would do with the Kandarian power squirreled away in its bloody pages. No doubt part of it hoped I'd be killed in the crossfire. I later learned it bet a significant sum of money on me losing. And there went the funding to publish the paperback version of the Necronomicon. And so our comic ends with the portal reopening and sending the book back out again, landing right next to a frozen Jason. Well, at least Jason has some nice reading material while he waits for the sequel. This comic is flawed, but damn if it ain't a lot of fun. There are plot holes to be sure, some dialogue that contradicts things that were said before, and characters that are annoyingly unlikable, but as a sequel to Freddy vs. Jason, it's pretty damn epic, and the fight scenes are exactly what you'd want out of a confrontation between these three horror icons. I will admit it also loses some points for a lot of Ash's one-liners and jokes. In Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, it feels like the writers thought very carefully about the best stuff to have Ash say and what actually sounded badass, but here he's trying way too hard at times, and there aren't a lot of memorable zingers. Plenty of callbacks to be sure, but few things as cool as the stuff in the movies. I also enjoy seeing Ash be a bit more emotional at times, like the reaction to seeing his hand again, or the regret over all the people around him who have died. The artwork is decent for the most part, but there are quite a few bits where either it gets lazy or just downright bizarre. The book was popular enough to spawn a sequel, Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, The Nightmare Warriors, which is not nearly as good, but that's a review for another time. Next time, Secret Origins Month is more like Secret Origins 2 Disconnected Weeks for a few reasons. And I'll get into those reasons next time with the original Marvel Comics #1 and the first appearance of Namor the Submariner.
Your attempts at interference are futile. The contest has already begun. We now wait to see how it plays out.
Okay, good thing I filmed a few reviews in advance. Otherwise, some things might be really confusing. Let's just deal with the fact that Jarrus is gone, Mysterious Lady is gone, Messenger Dude is gone, and everything feels weird. Criminy, is this the mental crap again? God, I hate the mental crap.
Oh, you and me both, dude.
The hell are you doing here?
Not really here. Maybe I'm your own mind trying to tell you something. Maybe I'm Margaret, but the signal is so weak because of the way this spell is playing out, and this is the only way for it to get through. Or maybe I'm the real 90s dude who has secret psychic powers that you're not aware of. Though probably not that last one. So, how's your sulking been going?
I am not sulking. I have been contemplating my decisions as of late and potential ethical breaches.
So, sulking.
Margaret and I meeting face to face only happened because I was becoming dangerously close to becoming a bad guy. It might have almost happened again.
True, but you didn't step over the line. Trust me, I know these things.
But you don't know if it was the entity who made me get that close.
No.
I have so much power. It's dangerous for me to have that kind of power. And now this contest thing. How am I supposed to resist the temptation of that kind of power that the prize will give?
Maybe you won't resist them. Maybe you'll reshape the entire world to your whims.
Exactly.
Then again, you've had the power to conquer the entire world for years now, and you haven't given into that temptation, so...
I worry that someday the temptation is gonna be too great.
Yeah, and I don't know for certain if it is, or if what happened was you. But you can't change what happened, and you don't make up for it by sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. Moving forward is what's important, and thus, moving forward, what are you gonna do? If you're gonna be a champion, what kind of a champion are you going to be?
Why the hell do I keep hearing that?
This is a mental battle, and it's the preliminary round for the contest. So I'm guessing this is how that woman is going to fight you.
With a slasher movie character, she looked like she could have just zapped me with lightning.
To be accurate, I think she's trying to attack you with your own self-doubt. You've seen that kind of thing before. Let's face it, you are kind of vulnerable to the mental crap.
But why Freddy Krueger?
Because that's how all this started, with the entity appearing to you looking like Freddy Krueger. You never really got closure on that. So, I must ask again that question, what are you gonna do moving forward?
I don't know. But I'll use my imagination a bit. Mr. Krueger! How lovely to see you again! I was just on my way to kick your ass!
Nice try, Linky Lou! Now let's really get your nightmare started!
falls asleep too. It may be because of Freddy, but a great injury to his life. But of course,
Remember about this. Aha! You can go now.
Sorry.
Idiot.
Dumbass.
Oh, cute comic boy, but you're not in the real world anymore. You're in my world. And here, I am God. You can't beat me here, bitch. Just like you couldn't beat me out there.
Maybe I can't. There's always gonna be someone bigger and stronger and meaner out there.
What? And that's you?
No, dumbass. Him!
Oh no! Ow! 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 Ow!
Okay, tag in. Thank you, Mr. Voorhees.
Ow! Ow! 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock your door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, gonna stay up late.
9, 10, you're going down again.
Now here's a crossover for you. Freddy versus Ghostbusters. Mr. Voorhees, tag in! And that is the kind of champion I'm gonna be.
Preliminary round has ended. The victor is Linkara. You are both champions worthy of being in this great tournament. Now you must await your summoning for the first true round. Information and dossiers about other participants in this tournament will be made available to you soon relative to your own universe's timescale. Welcome once again to the Contest of Champions.
You did well. Good luck. And happy Halloween.
Tournament arc.
You're a little more angry.
Okay. Too angry.